and welcome to my humble kitchen. Nothing fancy here, but I was asked to share my pho recipe. I know I mispronounce it all the time. It's PHO. It's a Polish version because I'm Polish. So this is how I make that delicious soup that costs $9 at the restaurant. And really, sometimes when you get the broth, it tastes like dishwater. I decided because of that, because I really enjoy it, to try and do my own version. Many trials it has taken for the broth itself, and it turns out it's the easiest thing in the world. So here is what we're going to need. We're going to need this for step one. And the reason why I have this parsnip only partially peeled is because I'm only going to use this up to here, small part. This is bok choy, and this bok choy has been washed. I have 2 leaves. We're gonna be making 2 to 2.5 quarts of soup. So make sure your pot is big enough to contain about 2.5 quarts, because even when you have 2 and you put all these veggies in there, it's going to be more, preferably 3 or 4 quart pot. This is a very large onion. We are only going to use about 1/4 of it. So if you have something smaller, I would definitely say kind of eyeball it. It doesn't have to be a ton of onion, but the onion is key to the flavor of the soup. Then we have 2 mushrooms. These are just regular grilling mushrooms, whatever they are white. It doesn't really matter what kind of mushroom you use. We have some celery here, and I have 3 little pieces of it given. And again, this is all for for 2 quarts of soup, but these are small, so this is why I have 3 pieces. I have 2 carrots, and I have a small piece like such of Dagon radish. This is, I think, Anaheim chili. It's some kind of a milder pepper that's kind of spicy. I also have here something that I can't remember the name of it, but it is another root that's kind of purplish on the outside, and it's right with the other roots, with beetroots and parsnip root, and in a grocery section. What snuck in here by accident, and we're not going to be needing for now, is the snow peas, and these are going to go in together with our cruciferous veggies. So they should actually be, I just separated them because I had everything together. So you're going to need a broccoli. Oops, my lemon decided to escape. A broccoli, cauliflower, a wedge of cabbage, lemon that's for the final preparation of the bowl, and the snow peas would go into that pile because that's where it belongs. So I'm going to move it over. Now for spices, I have 2 quarts of water sitting here. This is purified water. I prefer that. A lot of towns and cities have contaminated water. You get the little letter from your friendly utilities company. Most of the people don't read it. We do have some double of what should be maximum high level of cancer-causing chemical in our water here where I live. So I use bottled water for my cooking. Not for rinsing, but definitely for cooking, especially if I'm going to eat soup. Again, for spices, I just use garlic salt and just regular salt. If you use salt, which I think we all do, make sure it's a sea salt. It doesn't have to be the Kirkland brand, but theirs is really cheap and good. But there have been studies that have been done, and it seems that salt, like a table salt, just a chemical salt made in a lab, tends to trigger asthma attacks, among other autoimmune issues. So these are the noodles that I have purchased today. If you look on here, it says with green tea. Well, this is just because that's all they had. They don't need to have green tea, and I'll get a little closer and hopefully I can aim well. They don't have to have any green tea in them. I like those because they already come in 4 little sections, and they are perfect for the bowl of the soup. So next, what we are going to do is we're going to slice the onion, and I like to chop it really fine. Just all the other veggies. These I like to probably cut in half and then in 3, so each makes like 6 little sections. These I like to cut in what I call a matchstick, but that really is not matchstick, and you will see. That's more like 2x4s, but you will see it still works. It's not going to a beauty pageant, it's just going into my pot, and it works for what I needed to do. So, and that again, kind of matchstick. So all these hard veggies or these hard roots are kind of gonna be matchsticky. I am going to slice, just regular slice through here for the celery, and this I'll just cut rings. It works really good. You can actually, this is getting close to the seed, so I might cut it in half. You don't need a huge piece of this, probably this much is plenty, it's just for taste. And then I will see you back, and I'll show you how I slice my vegetables. This needs to get rewashed. So first things first, you really have to make sure when you work in a kitchen that you have a sharp knife. If your knife is dull, you are more likely to cut yourself with it than when it's sharp. And you have to make sure that you really had a surface to cut on. Those are the most important safety issues that I can think of. So we are going to cut this onion like such, and then I'm going to cut it again. And what I'm going to do, this is where the root was, this is where the greens were. So not cutting all the way through, I will just make small slices here and then slice like so, and you see the pieces are fairly small, and that would be very good for what we need it for. Even bigger pieces, they're not going to hurt anything. That is just going into the pot for the purpose of giving taste to the soup, and it's going to be very finely browned. So this is a Vidalia sweet onion. I like those. They have higher sugar content than others. And I have learned, so I am trying to cut as much fat and oils out of my diet as possible. So I am going to do this, actually make that onion on with no added oil in the pot. I use this pot a lot, so it's kind of wore out already, but I like it. It works great. So what you need to do is you need to heat up the pot first. And while we do that, as soon as our onions are browned, we're going to need our mushrooms, because those are for the broth too. And I actually do like mushrooms in the broth. And like I said, just into 6 pieces. They kind of become meaty when they cook, and they are very tasty. So these will be here. Then, like I said, to slice those carrots, what I do is I do this. This is a long carrot, so I'll slice it in 3 parts. And then I will start probably from the thickest one. And this is when it really comes in handy to have a sharp knife, because otherwise you're not going to be able to do that. And we're doing all that while our pot is heating up and getting ready. I will take probably 2 at the time is safest, and just slice them like this lengthwise. And these are my little 2x4s. And you know they are awesome because they break after they cook, and they taste really good because you still kind of get a little bit of taste inside. So this is how I slice my carrots. And this is a small, so I'm just going to cut it in 4. And please be very careful with your fingers when you do this, because it's really super easy to slip and give yourself an amputation. So just gently and carefully. That's the key. Now when it comes to knife skills, to me, I know that there is a lot out there that people talk about equipment and you know what you need and your knife skills. To me, if you can slice a vegetable or safely peel something and be able to cut it up, I think you have knife skills. So there needs to be nothing extra where that come from. It looks like I am running out of room here, but that's all right. See how that, okay, the pot feels pretty hot. So I'm going to use my knife for a scooper. You can hear things, the onions sizzle. And actually, these onions make an amazing broth just because you almost char them. So they are really going to be dark when they will be done. And that is the base of most of Asian soups, actually, from what I have gathered from watching things. And I have been to YouTube and I have seen a lot of different recipes that people post for that particular broth. And honestly, I have tried a couple of them and they were ridiculous and tasted nothing like what a broth should taste like. So this is why I decided to come up with my own broth recipe, and this is why we're watching this. So now the onions are sizzling, and don't forget that they are actually on a dry frying pan. What I will need to do is just add a little bit of water, about a teaspoon at the time, to make sure that they don't char but they brown, because they are beginning to char. Now again, if you're comfortable pouring from the container, you can, but you can't drown them. They have to be browned, so too much water also it's not the best thing to do. And these guys are looking great already. They actually, because of the sugar content, and especially these guys, they have more sugar than anything else. I'm trying to kind of angle this so you can see the pot better. Maybe, okay, that's a little bit better. Because of the sugar content in onions, actually. And that's okay to have that brown stuff on the bottom. This is your actually delicious taste that's going to help your soup taste amazing. And I've learned also recently that this is called deglazing, which means it's just getting that onions glaze your dish, and they kind of make it non-stick actually when you char them. It's very interesting. Again, if you are feeling not confident pouring from a large container, I would literally use a tablespoon and just, or a very small ladle, and just add water with that. Because again, like I was saying, you want to keep them nice and brown, but you cannot drown them. And you cannot burn them to where they are going to be bitter, because otherwise your soup is going to be bitter. So it's kind of a little bit of finesse, and you see how smoky and how steamy it gets as soon as I put that water in there. So now that our onions are looking brown, which means that they are reaching that point where we need, but I want them a little bit darker. Even if you char them, they are still going to, the soup is still going to taste really good. So, and when we finish cutting those carrots, which looks like I have a little too many, few too many, but it's all right. I like carrots. So you can use less than, I guess maybe they were a little bit bigger than I anticipated. But, I mean, carrots are good. No matter what you do with them, they are very tasty. And now we're going to, you see, when you have a sharp knife, slicing things really is super easy. It becomes a cinch. You just move your knife and it slices it. And I actually chose to take a little bit extra of the celery because I do like celery in a soup. And like I said, I am Polish and our soup base always has carrot, parsnip root, celery, and leek. Over here there is no leek, but you have, ooh, this is burning, but you have plenty of, so unfortunately it looks horrible, but this is what you want. We have onion for the base here, so we don't need the leek. And if you see when this is not burned so bad, it's coming off as I'm scraping it. This is the soup base that everyone boasts about. This is the good stuff, the taste that you're going to get. So next thing you will do is dump in your mushrooms. And again, if you don't have to do it on a dry pan, you can actually use oil. Probably about a tablespoon of oil would be enough. I like to let the mushrooms saute just with onions for a moment, even though this is kind of dry, but they do have a lot of liquid in them. So you do want to sear them a little bit and get some of the juice out. And I am here trying to finish this carrot. I kind of was going to go and cut everything, but not everybody has the kitchen skills necessary to slice vegetables. So I just wanted to make sure that if they do watch this, they will be able to do for themselves and not cut their fingers. And again, if the knife slides, just make sure to put one flat and just slice it as it's laying on a cutting board. Again, it's not going into a beauty pageant. It really doesn't matter what it looks like. As long as it works for you, it's a good slice. And I will slice the parsnip next. Parsnip is an amazing root. It's very sweet. It adds beautiful flavor to all the things that you cook. It can be roasted with potatoes. It's very stable. It can stay the whole winter. Like in Poland, we have very long winters, and we depend on a lot of root vegetables for cooking soups and such. So parsnip, carrot, celery root, that are root celeries, and potatoes are really the base of our food. That and cabbage. Cabbage stores really beautiful. It is, if you were going to have to purchase some long-lasting vegetables, cabbage is definitely one of them. And even if it looks not very exciting and it looks wilted and the leaves look kind of cruddy, you still can take those top leaves off and the underneath will reveal still healthy leaves. So you can just kind of, spruce it up and still eat it. So it tends to last at least half a winter. This is why cabbage is so popular in cold countries. It really is something. And you can live on potatoes and cabbage and those other roots for soups. Potatoes also can be used in soups. So this actually would be staple vegetables for us, because you can have a little flower pot growing in the kitchen with parsnips Or you can even sow your cilantro and have it growing in your kitchen. That will work as well. So there are ways around not having all those greens in a grocery store. Now, carrots, I like to slightly, oh, things are running away. Dogs are going to be happy because they will be eating it. I like to slightly saute them as well. They are harder. Like you see, first of all, I am putting things that needed to be browned. Like even mushrooms needed to be browned a little bit, and they will continue cooking with the other veggies. Now I'm starting from the hardest vegetables, which carrots are usually the hardest and most difficult to cook. I put carrots and parsnip in there. Now I'm going to do the Dagon radish. That one actually is fairly soft, and even though it's hard, but it cooks really fast. And again, I'm going to make the little 2x4s out of that. As you see. Then this guy, whose name I still don't remember, but I will look it up. As soon as I put things out, I totally forgot what the name of it was. So in it goes. So all those harder things can cook together. And even though bok choy is leafy, but because of this green little stem, I kind of put it at the end of sauteing the veggies. Oh yes, and everything is mixing up very nicely. I will just make sure to maintain the moisture. And again, you don't have to worry about it so much when you have oil in there. This is only kind of harder to do because the pot was dry when I put things in it. But as you can see, you can make a healthy meal even without oil. So we'll slice some of this hot pepper. And from here I will just, I don't necessarily want to make it super hot. Open this up, get the seeds out. I might put the whole thing in there just so it doesn't have to be sitting on my counter. I tend to overstuff my soup. That is one of my problems. I put way too much in it. And then it's more of the stew. But you know what? It's not a problem. You can always dilute it with water. Okay, so this is kind of sauteing here. I will add the celery now that has been previously sliced. And again, the best policy is to actually pre-slice everything. It would be easier to watch the pot and to watch what's going on so things don't burn. I just have bad habits and they are hard to get rid of. So there is that. And now to finish just not too long of the bits. If the pepper is smaller, I would just cut it into rounds. It kind of looks really cool in the soup. And then this guy, I will just make little notches here to kind of be able to slice it into cubes maybe. And then here just follow the leaf and just like so. I'm sorry I don't have everything nicely arranged in the little plates, but you can see that you can cook and not have to dirty every dish in the house. So this would be the last one that we want to saute, the last vegetable. Let me show you what it looks like. It looks like so. And that's perfectly okay. We are definitely on the right track. And all this dark stuff will come off the pot once we add the water, once it actually starts cooking. Some of it you will unfortunately have to scrape. This pot is not very thick bottom. It's actually very old and cheap pot. It is stainless steel, which is healthy for you. But, well, it has things to be desired still. So, in the meantime, I will move this over because we're done with this. And now concentrate on this. And we'll have time to do it because, anyway, in case you're wondering what bok choy looks like, this is bok choy, and you can get it at any grocery store. Where did I find it? I think it was close to celery, like on top of where the celery is, the fresh celery. But then every grocery store has their own way of arranging things. So I think this this has done well. It's nice, and the vegetables look what you're looking for. You look for veggies sweating. You can see how nice and moist they are looking. So this actually brings out the flavor in them. And it's just the taste. It's going to permeate the water that we will pour in there right now. So here goes the first quart of water. And a quart basically means 4 cups. This is what I have here. And here goes the second one. And I just want to show you that there is already broth in here. It's nice and brown. The water is not clear, but it's brown. So it is picking up on all that stuff that we had in there. All that delicious caramelized onion is going into the broth. And again, why does onion caramelize? Well, for those that don't know, onion is loaded with sugar. I may have touched on it. So this is why when you put it into a heat, even if it's no oil in it, it will still turn brown because, well, when you boil milk, it caramelizes. This is how they make caramel candy, and all by slowly cooking milk on a stove. So that's what you have. You have a bit of caramel in here that is from the onion. One more thing that I like to add to my soup, and this is only because I really like stronger broth. I enjoy the taste. I would add probably 1 tablespoon of this guy. So this is better than bouillon. I really like it. It says organic. This one happens to be reduced sodium, but I don't necessarily seek it out. This is what they had at my favorite grocery store. And this is a very large size for actually a decent price. So it says here that 1 teaspoon equals to 1 cube or 1 can of broth. So we have 1 can of broth, which is 8 ounces. So we have 8 cups in here. This is a lot more than that. You can put 1 tablespoon. 1 tablespoon has 3 teaspoons in it. So you can put, depending on how strong you like your broth, I would advise at least 1 of these. I kind of like sometimes to even put 2, but it may be a little bit too much. And make sure that you have a standardized tablespoon somewhere in your tablespoon utensils. This is a good old communist tablespoon. I measured it. It's exactly 15 milliliters, and the teaspoons that come with this are exactly 5 milliliters. The new kind of table, so I will just put, instead of putting 2, I will just put that much. And this is to my liking. And again, whatever your liking is, you have to kind of sort of figure out. But this makes it taste really good. So just mix it up to make sure to dissolve that broth so the lump doesn't sit anywhere. And now what I like to do, I like to boil these veggies for about 5 minutes. Once they start boiling, my water that I add to it was actually heated up, so this should not be, we should not have to wait very long. But it looks like my dispenser is not heating that well anymore, so it was more like warm water, not the hot water. It might take a moment for this to boil. In the meantime, while we're waiting on that to boil, I would like to prepare the rest of the veggies for the soup to put in after it boils. I am sorry I keep walking around, but I'm adjusting the camera just to make sure that you're able to see all that I am trying to do here. Oh my gosh, I've been talking for 30 minutes. Maybe like this. All right, so now next, what do you do with these guys? This is just cabbage. What I do is I kind of make small slices because I don't like those huge ones. We could probably put it in as was, but then it's really hard to like catch it onto the spoon or even bite it. So this is why I just slice it in like usable strips. When it comes to my cauliflower, I like to nip the little leg here. And actually what I will do is I just break it up into smaller pieces because again, this whole thing doesn't fit in your mouth. And I don't mean to like decimate it completely where it's super tiny, but just small pieces here that are more manageable to even break down with the spoon. And those little pieces, those little ends of the leg are actually also going into the soup. They are very tasty and they are good for you to eat. So this, I mean, you can put bigger pieces if you like it to more a little bit authentic, but honestly, I like it to be a little bit more practical, so I'm not spilling everything everywhere as I'm trying to eat it. So piece like that, I'm okay with. So these are the cauliflowers, and now for the broccoli. So again, if this looks healthy, I will just slice it because that is still good food in a soup. And this is a little bit less laborious because all you really do is just cut these guys off. This one kind of is worth it, even though I just bought it today. I don't know, it looks fresh, but normally they come in like a box of ice and they have them sit on the store, so I think this is when they lose their little perkiness, stop falling. And then again, just slide this a little, make sure you don't slice your fingers, and just break it up. So it's a little bit easier to kind of manage than the cauliflower. There we go. They fit better not only in your mouth, but also in the pot. Now I'm going to switch knife because I need to clean the snow peas. If you throw it in as is, which I mean you can, you're not gonna die, but it's going to have a lot of strings. So what you need to do is just nip here and pull, and you see the strings come off, and try to do it from the other side. Sometimes they go both ways. So when you do that, you're not going to be spitting as you're eating that thing. And then if it breaks, I just make a little notch and continue. You see here, because it's a bigger, more mature pod, it had more of it. And the cooking video should not take half an hour or 45 minutes. I apologize. And this is my first one. So once you get that cleaned up, so that's a little bit tedious, so it takes a moment. And again, you know, it's nothing terrible will happen when you don't do it, but like I said, it's just a lot of those um, hairs. It's like very well, very hard and unbreakable, really, fiber that's there, and you just have to spit it out or swallow it. Well, I don't know how that's gonna work, but I prefer not to have them on there. And basically, the younger the piece, the less of those fibers are there, but it's kind of always, unless you have your own, you don't really know. You're getting cat in a bag when you're getting a plastic bag. So, okay, now our veggies are ready. And our broth is almost boiling. It looks amazing. Let me have a taste to see what else I need to add. It actually tastes amazing. The pepper was pretty spicy. I almost don't even need to add salt, honestly. It tastes great, just the way it is. And I have not added one spice in here except for that tablespoon, the large heaping tablespoon of broth. I am liking it. The only thing I am concerned with, I might have too many veggies on here. So we'll see how things work out. And again, you don't want to make the soup stew, but if need be, you can always add some water to it and it will be fine. So a lot of times I would add an additional 2 cups of water in it. I know that the pot that fits in that pot, you just have to make sure that you have the right size of the pot, because it a lot of times tends to be more than what it is. And like I said, it just, the volume expands as you drop things in it. It's just physics, cannot jump over it. But it also makes it quite delicious. So in the meantime, while we are standing here and I'm being silent because I'm looking at the pot, let me show you the bowls that I use for this. Oh, I forgot one more thing. These are the perfect pho bowls, and I guess you can maybe buy it in Walmart or Target. These are those ones that are being sold as a single bowl. They don't come in sets. And they're amazing. So I am going to maybe only do one because I am not going to eat both of them. But that's 2 quarts that would implicate that you're making 2 bowls of that soup. And these bowls comfortably fit the quart of broth with the noodles in it. So let's open the noodles. There we go. And as you see, they are already, and that's plenty. This is how I like to do that. This soup is best fresh, and when it's just done, you would definitely go ahead and put your noodles in, put it over, and wait for a few minutes. It softens them, and they are good to go. They are a little bit al dente, but I don't mind it. So as you see, when I added the water, I still have room to add veggies. And this water again was hot, so it shouldn't have stopped the heating up process that much. And for this, you would just do whatever you get on your soup when you get it at the restaurant, which is, I love the basil leaves. I like the bean sprouts, but not that much, and they did not have any. So you would sprinkle your bean sprouts, you would put your basil leaves, and you would put your cilantro leaves in here, and your 2 wedges or as many as you like of lemon, and then you can pour the soup on here when it's done, and voila, finished. There is only one more caveat about making of all this soup. I will pause for a moment because there would be just the last thing about adding the veggies. Once this has boiled vigorously for about 5 minutes, I will add all these veggies. Well, I don't know if they will all fit, but I'll try to add most of these veggies into the pot. And when you do that and the soup boils again, you only boil them for 5 minutes, or else you are going to end up with the mushy mess. So 5 minutes, and you kind of should watch when it started to boil to make it no longer than 5 minutes. That's when you get the best pho, because it's not raw vegetables and they are not overcooked vegetables. It just makes this perfect thing which is well done, but it still has the form when you bite into it. So let me pause. I will slice my lemon in wedges, and I'll see you in a moment.